Yo, what is up, everybody? This is Ken the Hustle Bee with Anna, and let us drop that beat. Happy summer. I'm just joking.
Don't skip over an entire season on me now, Ken. Happy spring!
Happy spring.
It's totally spring, which is great.
So spring that I'm sneezing every day.
Oh yeah,
my eyes are watering. Yeah, it's crazy how the bee is allergic to pollen.
I know. Aren't you supposed to be like all about that?
No,
No,
unfortunately not. And crazy part is the last 2 weeks I've been traveling to Nashville, and I feel like I'm getting hit twice.
Yeah.
It's like the new pollen here and the new pollen there.
Yeah, and it's probably different, slightly different stuff.
Oh, I'm sure it's different, different variety or species of pollen. And I actually get it worse there. So
I totally agree. Ever since I moved back up to Illinois from Georgia, it's way better. Like, Georgia pollen is absolutely out of control. Anybody from Georgia will look at me.
I wonder if that's the thing. The further south you go, the worse they are.
I don't know. I mean, the part of Georgia I lived in, it was like North Georgia. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of trees, especially just tree pollen, right? Like so much tree pollen everywhere. But here it's not as bad. Like I've been noticing it this week, probably literally in the last 7 days. But it's not like I have to just stay fully medicated at all times to like survive, which is definitely how it was in Georgia for me.
Yeah, it's I actually had to take one every day the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm trying to like wait till the very last minute to ever need it, but then I'm trying to cycle it. Like sometimes I take in the morning. Sometimes it's like,
give yourself a little break?
Yeah. Do I want a better sleep or do I want a better day?
Yeah. Right. Sophie's choice there. Yeah.
This episode is gonna be special because one, Hustler Hacks is out hustling, so it will be me and Anna today. And
better hustling than hacking, I guess.
Oh,
he could be hacking. I mean, he's got pollen in El Paso. Right. I don't know.
And the other thing too is Anna has notes and I don't, so I'll be winging it, and Anna's ready for this. So I'm actually gonna let her take the lead on this one. Take the lead.
Interesting. Is that a slight acknowledgement that having notes is superior, or no?
Oh, true. I would say so.
I mean, my notes are extremely basic. I would call them bullet points more than anything, but we have talked amongst ourselves about discussing this at some point, and today it's kind of in the spirit of spring break, extra casual conversation. So we're pulling out kind of a hypothetical, and
or it could be a possibility.
It could be, right? It could become reality
for somebody that's listening. For somebody that's listening, or the further you would explain it, it could be, what if we pivot?
Right. Yeah, it could apply to us at some point too.
Yep. So
pretty much the topic is like, what if we had to start completely over from scratch, having our businesses? And so I guess really we can talk about it any which way we want. If we were just literally had nothing to start from, or if we were pivoting, or I thought of it more in terms of like knowing what I know now, what would I have done differently when I was first starting? So if I were to start over, like these are things that I would do differently the next time around.
I think it's very important to be able to distinguish the learnings that we have, learned or acquired experience, and because you said it could be in a different category, different product, or it could be a totally different platform, right? Like we are mostly on eBay, and could we do this in a different way, in a different platform? So I'm excited to talk about this. I do have a lot of experience. I mean, we both have been selling for so long now.
Yeah, almost 8 years, right? We're both almost at 8 years.
I was just literally 8 in March. I was 8 years in March. So
mine's 8 in May.
So yeah, that's I'm excited, and I think everybody that's listening could probably, look back and try to see what are things, because some of the things probably could, how we are doing things could be possibly be better before than now. Would you agree? Hopefully
Yeah,
not.
definitely.
It could be, right? Because you actually have like the juice and the excitement
Yeah.
and well, like the I don't know how to say this word,
Naivete.
naivety, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, right. It's like you never really know how hard it's going to be,
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably for the best because you wouldn't have agreed to
Oh
it.
yeah, we would have started.
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
it's one of those things like, well, good thing I was already in it to win it
yeah.
because it was more than I bargained for in a lot of ways. But yeah, I also think when you're first starting out, I mean, for me at least, I'll just speak for myself. I was definitely not as efficient as I am now. And so, and I'm not 100% efficient now either, but in
Mm-hmm.
some ways, I think I'm spoiled by the processes that I kind of have been able to refine and put in place that I now take for granted.
Mm,
Like I was working twice as hard at some things back
right.
then. And what could I do with that energy now? If I did have that like initial like I'm starting out kind of like fire in my soul,
Mm-hmm.
which it's just I still love my business. I love reselling. I don't see myself ever not doing it really, but it isn't the same as starting out from scratch. Like
For sure.
you can't unhave 8 years of experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, so it's all part of it, but it is interesting to think about for sure. Well, let me ask you this, Ken, because I have notes.
Mm-hmm.
I have about 3 things that I've
Okay.
identified that I know I would like to take with me into, a do over if I was going to have a do over or even into a pivot. Really, either way, these are things I would apply. But is there anything off the top of your head or that comes to mind as like the main thing or the most important thing that you would take with you?
I think one of the biggest things is organization
Mm,
of I would say, I guess, for the lack of a better term, inventory system.
yeah.
um I wish I was able to learn that earlier. I think because of my photographic memory, I relied on it so much that, because it's a two-person operation. It's me and JC. That every time JC looks for something, I know where it's at. And every time JC asks for kind of like, hey, how much did we pay for this? Because there's an offer, I know what it is.
Yeah.
So, but now we have, used the custom SKU system. We have basically rules of, you know, the automatic counter offer system. Now it's like we usually counter offer $10 off the rip, don't matter how low or low ball that offer is. So those
Yeah.
are efficiency that you don't have to communicate anymore.
Yeah, and you don't
Um,
have to decide about, right? We talked about
yeah,
that last
it's like,
episode, just decision
yeah, you
fatigue.
don't have to decide, and you know where things are supposed to go.
Yeah.
So that's I think that has become our strong suit now, that we hardly lose an inventory or not be able to find it. Um, that because that we have a SKU system in place, we know where everything's at, and then to a point it's like over labeling. Like
Mm-hmm.
just label it, just label the
Yeah.
box, label the rack, label just over. And it's, I don't know why, because it doesn't look dirty. Labeling it doesn't make it look dirty.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it just makes it look like you know what you're doing.
Right.
And you're not opening the same box or bin multiple times a day and expecting that it's there. So, kind of just like we have rules like, okay, top shelf is always outerwear. Outerwear is probably the slowest moving. As the season progresses, kind of like right now, a lot of our outerwear are on top shelf because it's not the first pull. All the summer wears are in the lowest rack. That way it's easily reachable. And, as the season changes, we swap them out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of thing that I would definitely do differently. And the cool part is, it's not like, oh, I wasted my strong suit of having a photographic memory. No, it's actually a double layer now, because
Right.
it's, like,
It's not like you're
because,
not using it.
yeah, it's not like I'm not using it still,
Yeah.
but just in case. And I've
Yeah.
always kind of like, look, if somebody was to ship for me, like if you came over and help us ship and fulfill, I'm always like trying to see, like, would an eBay seller recognize the pattern, the system.
For
And as a matter
sure.
of fact, you came over to help us start that system with our clothing inventory. So ever since we've done that, it's just kind of like a second nature to label things as we list, because it takes 2 seconds to
Yeah.
mark it. So now we use like a sticker system. So we have, just what do you get, a continuous number, right? I just bought, 1 to 2,000 number on Amazon, and they're just different colors. So we just label it on SKU like blue 001, blue
Yeah.
002. So, and then just stick it on a label, stick it on the box, and it's just way more efficient now.
Yeah. That is, and I mean, even having like something that started out as a huge asset for you, having like a really photographic
Mm-hmm.
memory, it's like you almost grew out of that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was an amazing like advantage that you had, but now you don't even need it as an advantage, right?
No.
Because you have a
No.
system instead,
Yeah, it's
which is
more
really
like a
cool.
fail safe. Now it's a
Yeah.
superhero now. It's a superhero
Now it's a
talent.
party trick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like when JC calls me when I was out of town, I was like, it's the gray bin on the back corner on the
Yeah.
third, and then it's like, nah, and she goes there, and it's like, yeah, it's there. So.
I always thought that the phrase like I know that like the back of my hand was so funny because I'm
Hmm.
like I don't know how well I know the back of my hands. There are a lot of things I think I know better than the backs of my hands.
Yeah.
I mean, if I just saw a picture of my hand, I would
Hmm.
instantly recognize it as my hand. But just trying to like recall every little detail
Yeah.
of what the back of my hand looks
Yeah.
like,
The
like that
zoom
never
in
made sense
of
to
like
me.
there's a scratch there.
Right.
There's a.
Yeah. Well, my hands are covered in scratches a lot because I still have a kitten at my house. She
Oh,
likes
that's
to
true.
attack my hands because I'm always trying to play with her. So, um, that's a really good one. I actually, love being organized and I love labeling stuff. That is just like, yeah, one of my favorite things about running the store, really.
Yep.
But I would completely agree with you. That actually wasn't something on my list. But when I think about how I first started out my inventory system, man, it was so rudimentary because honestly, in part, I did not have a big enough vision for what my business was going to become. So I
Mm.
didn't think I need to make a
Right.
system that's basically infinite.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it that way. And then so there were like two distinct points in the last 8 years that I was like, okay, wow. I think it was around 5,000 items. Is that right? I want to say it was around 5,000
Hmm.
items and then around 10,000 items
That's a
where I
lot.
had to like change
You
and
have
and
to.
improve my whole system, and so I had to touch every item, in order to do that, to have an accurate like log of where everything was.
Right.
And now it is basically an infinite type of system like yours. And so I wish I had started with that, and I heard of people doing it multiple different ways even when I was first starting out, and I just thought like, oh, it's probably not going
Just
to
a
be
lot.
that
Yeah.
big of a deal.
Extra work,
Yeah.
like I only have 100 items right now, 200, 300, and then it just keeps growing. And
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, and I remember like the example that stands out to me is I did a lot of clothing too in the beginning, which I still
Mhm.
do a lot, but not as much proportionately, as I do now. So anyway, I had sweaters in a bin, and
Mhm.
then it became like, well, here's the red sweaters, and here's the blue sweaters,
Mhm.
here's the black sweaters. And then it was like, well, here's the small red sweaters, the medium red sweaters, and the large red sweater. Like I had to keep subdividing it
Right.
because it would get too full. And that's when eventually I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to like either number these, or
Mhm.
I actually first started doing like kind of like you, not with the colors, but like with nominal categories like housewares, clothing,
Okay, yeah, you
clothing
subdivided.
1, clothing 2, like that.
We tried that. We
Yeah.
tried
Now I
that
just
too.
number the bins.
Yeah, yeah, because like it just doesn't matter anymore, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what unit it is, because
Right.
if you have an assigned number for it, then
I
um,
basically have the alphabet to give me like groups of bins. So it'll
mm-hmm,
be like H1 through 12,
you're right.
you know, J1 through 12, whatever. But that's just to kind of keep things like loosely grouped together within my storage situation. And I didn't even like name the racks. Like this is rack, this shelf
Mm-hmm.
is shelf H1. Like it's not like that. I just kind of keep the H's together ish, keep the J's together ish, so
Yeah.
that it's easy for me to like roughly estimate where in the room they are, right? And then I'm like you're saying, I'm not um ever opening a bin twice.
Yeah.
Like everything that's in that bin that I have to pull, I'm opening it one time only.
Yep.
So, yeah, I would definitely do that. With really ultimately the foundational thing about this in my opinion is like having a bigger vision for my store in the first
Right.
place,
That's true.
right?
Right. Yeah. Because it's future proofing it, right?
Yeah, right.
And having the vision. What if somebody needs to ship for you? What if you start hiring an employee, and the moment you hire an employee, it would probably the worst time to create a system because you're paying somebody to ship for you when you don't have a system, and it would just build a lot of waste of time together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think utilizing the organization, create a system. I think that's it. It don't matter what kind of system it is, as long as it is something that you understand, easily taught, easily taught to other people, and scalable. So
Yeah.
I think those three things, if you have it down, it's a good system.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, we spend so much time like managing our inventory, whether that's sourcing it, organizing it, pulling it, shipping it. Like that is such an important piece of
Mm-hmm.
like your daily life if you're doing this, right? So
Right.
it makes it way smoother and less frustrating too, which is great. Okay, well, I will just say one thing that I had on my list, which was to use data to make sourcing decisions
Mm-hmm.
like sooner.
Right.
Because I was a really big fan of collecting data and like just making observations. But I
Right.
still, and I did research stuff here and there, but I do like way fewer experiments now than I did in the beginning. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's also just because I did enough experiments. I'm like, I'm
Right.
kind of over it,
You
Like,
know, a lot of things that failed, so you don't do it
yeah.
anymore.
And it's just like, it's a very calculated experiment. If I'm doing it now, it's still based on research, for the most part. I mean, every once in a while, there will be some item that's just so intriguing that I'm like, surely there's something to this, right? But that
Mm-hmm.
happens way less now. And partially that is because I know a lot more now, but also I'm just more strict because every experiment that ends up like not being wildly successful is still costing me time.
Yep.
And as I've come to know a lot more about the stuff that I'm selling, that kind of like cost of that education is not as valuable to me anymore because I already know a lot, right? I already know a
True.
lot more than I used to. So I would just say I kind of wish I had like zoned that in, like, narrowed that window of experiments like sooner than I did probably.
That's good. Data driven.
Yeah.
Um, that is interesting because early on I was all about data.
Yeah.
I use a lot of the traffic analysis and stuff like that. What gets the most views in my store? Obviously, what are the items that has the highest ROI? So early on, I did like a weekly report that I created to, figure out what made me the most money and what made me the least money. So that was the thing. And then monthly, I would go to my lowest viewed items and kind of like engrave that in my brain that don't buy this again. It's not
Memorize
good.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that is very helpful. Obviously, there are a lot of tools on eBay. I'm just looking at it like the traffic
Mm-hmm.
metrics, trying to find which has the most impression, the least impression. Um, Understanding metrics and data, I think, is very good. 'Cause at the end of the day, right? Like, there's a lot of things I don't like to sell, but if the data says it is good to sell,
You want to name some names?
actually, um, I didn't like Hokas. I don't personally like Hokas. And then when you can get Hokas, at a good entry price and you
Oh
could
yeah.
double your money, I was like, give me all the
You're
Hokas.
like, suddenly I'm a Hoka's
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What's
yeah.
up?
Yeah, I'll still never wear them, but I'll sell
Yeah.
them. Also, like, size small on men's is like the hardest size to sell, and I don't like. I'm allergic to it because like after buying so many, next thing you know, it's like looking at the data. How did we do in this buy? And next thing you know, I was like, oh, we did great.
Except
What?
for the small.
Yeah, what are the sizes left? What are the items left? It's like all
Yeah.
small.
Oh, and
Um,
extra small? Forget about it.
yeah, like that. So yeah, I like that. I think off the rip, you gotta train your data analysis strategy, your buying strategy,
Yeah.
because in a bigger scale, it could be way more costly if you don't pay
Yeah.
attention to it.
Well, and that kind of brings me to another one on my list, which is I wish I had seriously looked into retail arbitrage just
Mm,
as like a bigger chunk of my store.
right.
I wish I had done that sooner because it is way easier to research. I mean, in the whole rest of my store, like I was never thinking about replenishing a specific product.
Right. You were
I didn't
always
even
like one
think of
off.
it
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
products. Like that
Yeah.
just sounds so
Yeah.
commercialized to me.
Yeah.
And so, but if you do want to be more data driven, like it's way easier to research stuff that's
That is
regularly
true.
available, like literally the exact same thing, or at least the exact same like brand or
Style.
the
Right.
the
Right. Not like
new
yeah.
model of the
Yeah.
same type of thing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that is just and it's fun in a different way than like all the
Yeah.
thrifting stuff is fun. So that also has been really enjoyable for me, I guess, to like have two different ways of
Yeah.
enjoying sourcing a lot.
I like that analogy. And to just kind of like confirm that, that's the way I looked at it, because researching a brand new item, a lot of them will have barcodes, a lot of them will have UPC style code, and the barrier of entry is way lower on retail arb than thrifting because you gotta identify it. But also now, that was 7, 8 years ago. Now it's actually way easier than what it was because now we have Google Lens
I know.
that we
Well,
could like search the
I mean,
item or
honestly,
similar.
thrifting is way easier too. Like, what is this thing is almost not a question anymore because
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
just
It's
search
like
it.
you have so many like, and if Google can't find it, it has to be really rare, or it's trash.
Yeah.
so so I think those um kind of like you have to explore,
Yeah.
and I think more than ever, if I started over again, I'd explore a lot more. I wouldn't say I wouldn't do thrifting because now I have more brands that I know, and as long as they, because everybody's location's different, right? Like there are people that have like, for
Yeah.
example, Glenn
Like
has
what's
way
available.
has
Yeah.
way more Ross than Nike outlet. He only has one Nike outlet, and at one point I had four Nike outlets or five Nike outlets within a 2 hour drive. So I leaned a lot more Nike outlet,
Yeah.
um, and those are the things that I guess like um help me, because I just you know kind of like, again, data driven. It's like, wait, the data says I have five outlets,
Yeah.
so compared to 3, 4 Rosses, and I could definitely pull way more items on a Nike outlet than I could in a Ross.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like where I'm at. Retail art school. I like that take. I like that take.
Yeah, it is cool. And I would say if anybody is a thrifter and you haven't ever tried it, it's a whole different animal, but it's really fun. And it
It's the
has
same
some of the
process,
yeah, it
right?
has some of the same like rewarding, I don't know, parts of the process,
Yeah,
I
it
guess,
is.
but
Like I've seen you find some gems, and
yeah.
it's the same thrill.
You're
Like
still
I think
treasure
yeah,
hunting.
it's still
Yeah,
treasure hunt.
but it is different and
Yeah.
like yeah, but even with thrifting, like I thrift, I guess I would say a lot still, like regularly where I'll
Mhm.
go to like just, old school, like just go
Yeah.
to a thrift store or like go to yard sales. I still love doing that stuff, but I don't really I'm not in a situation anymore where I'm like, I gotta go out and thrift this week and find some more stuff to list,
Right.
right? It's like I can be way pickier, I can spend more time, or I can go fewer and further between because I'm also doing this retail arb stuff
Yeah.
too. And I'm doing a lot more like streamlined ways of thrifting, like bidding online at estate auctions where I can research everything in advance. I can just go pick it up all at once and I don't have to spend the time hunting for it
Yeah.
in person, right? Like, even though that's really fun, like, I still love going to the bins and like digging through everything. Like, that's its own fun. But I don't have to do that. It's not the only way I can find really good stuff for my store. So I like having the variety of sourcing. Like, I think that's something that's keeping it, the whole thing fresh for me. And honestly, like, starting over, and like thinking about our topic of like, what if we were doing it all over again? I think I might prioritize that a little bit more just in general of kind of keeping it fresh,
Yeah.
right? In the
Yeah.
beginning, everything is new.
Yeah.
But after a year or two, it's like, okay, well, this can be its own grind, but there are a
Mhm.
lot of unexpected ways to kind of keep it fresh and keep yourself engaged and keep learning and growing and enjoying it. So,
I like that. My where at? What number am I at now? You did two. I'm
yeah.
about to do my second.
Yeah.
My other one is save money. I'm
Yes.
terrible at
Build up
it.
your own capital.
I'm terrible at it. I'm so terrible at it, and my mom knows it. And when my mom knows it, that's bad. Um,
She seems to know what she's talking about most of
yeah,
the time, in
exactly,
my
right. So,
experience.
and she's like, she always, because she's a saver. And it's not like she's super stingy too. Like she spends, but she also saves.
Yeah.
Um, so I say that because again, kind of like the inventory system we talked about earlier. It's like you have to design it that it grows bigger, right? And early on, I was like, I started with $500. I was like, $500 is a lot of money,
Yeah.
and then I got to a point that I think my biggest sale day is like $6,000 in a day, and I'm looking back at it. I wish I just saved that because like your sourcing budget, right? Like I grew from $5,000 spend to set to $10,000 spend to now there are opportunities. I hear people that they're six-figure spend,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm like, but the deal is so good, but you have to take all, and it's $100,000,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't have that,
Right. Don't
and
have that lying around.
yeah, so like, I think that's the biggest thing. I think first 5 years should be a lot about putting a lot of money aside to
Yeah.
like for the bigger sourcing opportunity.
Yeah.
Because kind of like what's happening the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years post COVID, basically, that there are more opportunities to buy wholesale in bulk. This year especially, I've seen so many pallet offers, at a
Yeah.
ridiculous price. Like because when me and Glenn looked at it way back, it was like like you have to buy a whole truckload, and it
Yeah.
was like $25 per piece,
Oh
and I'm
my
like,
gosh.
that's kind of high.
Yeah.
But
Was there
now
just
I'm
a
not.
lot less overproduction? Like,
Yeah, but there's overproduction
why was
now.
that? Yeah.
There's definitely overproduction now compared to
Clearly.
before. And so like you have to like have that capital to buy those, and when you have those, that's kind of like how you could stack up your store, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
to your point about you don't have to source as much and as often. The thing with having a bigger store, you have to replenish way more, like, or your inventory is just going to start depleting, and when your inventory is depleting, your income's depleting over time
Yeah.
too. So so I think that's the biggest thing. Save. Don't spend money like I do. um
Yeah, I feel some kind of way about that too. Like there were many years. I mean, I'm trying to think how many years, but I'm terrible at like chronological memory.
Especially
So
when
I'll
you're
just
having a breakout year and feel like treat yourself.
right now?
Like, no, when you're having a breakout year in
Oh
your
yeah.
business, it feels like you're unstoppable
Yes.
and you
And
celebrate, you
but then the whole like
upgrade.
next year is like not
I
that.
no,
And
and
then
the
you're
whole
like,
next
"Oh,
year is
what was
not
I
that. And I was
thinking?"
like, I wish I did at least like
I
cut
know.
it in half.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I was just gonna say I spent many years, a lot of years in my store, not ever using any kind of credit cards or anything. Like
mm,
I had no business debt at
yeah,
all, and so I was limited to like how much actual cash from my business could I put back in the business. Is very simple
right,
system, right? And now I do have like some business debt, especially this year because I've bulked up so much
yeah,
inventory, like bigger opportunities than I've ever
right,
had, which has been good. And like I'm not worried about that. Like
yeah.
they're calculated, purchases and whatever. But there is part of me that's like it would just be so uncomplicated if I had, like you said, if I had been building up cash slowly for the last eight
Yeah.
years instead of kind of like using other tools and resources that now I have to pay stuff back. Like, I don't like being in that situation. And I mean, let's be real, like, that's the American plight of
Right.
finances, right? Like, almost everybody has some kind of debt. And I just don't like it. I
I,
just
I would
kind
s-
of
I would
would rather
still
not,
well, I like that, and that's how my mom would say it. But
Yeah.
I would still do it the way I do. I would still borrow money, and if I had capital laying around, more capital laying around, then I would have double what I just
Right.
purchased. Like that's how I think, because I was I've always thought that like things you I've always thought that you eventually reach a point that you cannot spend the money that you save up. But being exposed to like bigger deals, looking at other people,
Yeah.
talking to, bigger sellers, to a point I'm like, man, like my whole sales of the year he just spent in one buy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then that thinking of like, oh, if you have so much money then you don't have any inventory to spend, that's not a thing. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
I think so yeah, you gotta save, save, save. um and I guess it leads to the next point, my last one, and you could give your last, Anna.
Yeah.
um is don't be afraid, and I'm really guilty about this in my first 3 years. Don't be afraid to share what you do with other people, especially like employees that you shop at. Um, and I've said
Like,
this before.
don't make it weird and be too mysterious.
Yeah, in a way, but also like I feel like if you don't share enough, just enough, not too much, it's like you're stopping them from helping you.
Yeah. You're
Um,
deciding for them. That's
yeah,
a
it's
really
like,
good point.
because it's like if I don't tell what I'm looking for, right? Just like what I'm looking for,
Yeah.
um, in the price point, to a point that I don't think I'm overly blunt now, but I feel like I'm direct. And I'm
Yeah.
direct to a point that let's not waste
Yeah.
time.
You're like direct and friendly.
Right, right, right. That's true. Like, still have the personality, but also to a point after the laughters and the jokes, say, like, hey, at the end of the day, I'm running a business. I would buy everything that you have at this price point.
Yeah.
To a point that I'm able to tell, like, hey, any clothing that's over $50 retail, I'll buy it for $5. Like, I've made that statement to multiple managers, inventory managers, and now they're just like, oh yeah, we actually just got a shipment. Oh, we have a shipment coming next week. So it's like, wait, like, did I just open an opportunity because I said something and I
Yeah.
said what I want and what I need in my business? Um, so now, it's way smoother. I may
Yeah.
not have the capital then, but I still would have been able to convey that, right? Like, okay, I have a $2,000 budget. I'm looking for these items,
Yeah.
and they probably would have helped me. And actually early on, it would have been easy to help me because I didn't have a lot of money. I
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of money. Like, oh, here's 10 items. Here's 2,000.
Well,
You know?
and that really helps them out too, because if they're like, okay, well, I know, like, it's clear, right? It's
That you're a
clear
buyer.
if I offer this to Ken,
Yeah.
it's not a maybe. He already said,
Yeah.
this is what I'm looking for, and then I'm guaranteeing myself a sale of this stuff,
Yeah.
basically, which is really
Yeah.
good for them too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think overall, like, even in a broader sense, that's really good advice, because I think there are a lot of people, no matter like what kind of inventory you have in your store, who are kind of like sheepish about like sharing what they do with people, or even like from yourself to like another seller, like telling them how you do stuff, or like, everybody can use their own discretion, obviously, but I have like never regretted sharing any details with like talking shop with somebody. Obviously, we have a podcast about this, so we're not shy about sharing like what we know or our experience or whatever, but like, the benefits way outweigh the any potential risk of, anything, in my experience. And I think that's even true with people, like you're saying, like inventory managers at places where you source, or store managers or whatever. Like, I think even thrifting, a lot of people are like nervous to be like, oh, well, I'm a reseller, because people like judge them for flipping stuff or whatever. And most of the time they get excited about it and they want to help you. And I
Yeah.
just think that's important for people to hear, that yes, every once in a while, every time you have that opportunity to kind of share what you're doing with someone else for
Right.
whatever reason, they might react badly to it, but 9 times out of 10 they don't.
Yeah.
Like, it's mostly positive.
Yeah,
and
unless
the net of that is way
yeah, unless you're
way outweighs
being
the bad.
a disruptive customer.
Right.
You
Or
know,
you're
if
being
you're
like
just yeah,
an arrogant jerk
yeah,
about it, or
right. Like,
something.
if,
Like,
yeah, and if you're like, being entitled or something like that, then
Right.
obviously nobody wants to serve you.
But there you go. Like, with humility, you can share
yeah,
pretty much anything, and it usually is going to work in your favor.
yeah, because at the end of the day, right, like, the bottom line is they're working there to put, to pay for their house, to buy food, to provide for their family.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this to provide for my family too. So, like, if you guys, that's really your common ground. You're working, I'm working, and let's make this, a harmonious relationship. And that's the way I look at it now. That,
Yeah.
you're
You're introducing a win-win situation.
yeah, I'm coming in to solve your excess inventory before it gets liquidated too cheap and and shipped out of your store that you don't get a credit for. And sometimes that could be a make and break of hitting your sales goal. So now to a point, it's like, I even tell certain managers, like, hey, like, do you want me to check out today or tomorrow? Will the sale help today or tomorrow?
Right.
I've
Right.
said that, and it's
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
and some stores are like, oh yeah, like, we need a lot of sales today, and now certain people know that if they have a good sale and they have a big sales goal to reach, they would text me. It's like, hey, we need to hit certain goals, or like, bonuses. Store gets bonuses if they hit 150% of goal, 200% of goal. So kind of like, think about that, and if you're looking at it in that angle,
Yeah.
then why wouldn't you share
Right. It's like,
what you do?
maybe there are ways that you haven't considered that you are actually bringing something to the table. You're not
Oh,
just
yeah.
being needy, right?
Yeah,
Or like
exactly.
or bothering them.
I think that is I think that is a
Yeah.
good very noble way of saying it, that you're not there to be needy. You're actually there to provide value and to provide something, to bring something to the table
Yeah.
that both of you guys could benefit. Both parties could benefit, the seller and the buyer. So
Totally.
I think that's man, I wish I did that on day one. I would have so many friends right now. Because eventually these people become your friends.
So many more friends.
Yeah, so many more friends.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of so many more friends, perfect segue, Ken. And we promised the people a shorter episode, so we can wrap it up with this one.
Yeah.
But truly, I wish that I had not lived for so many years under my rock. I wish I had gotten involved in the community sooner, and you already knew I was going to say that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I just had no idea what I was missing. And that has been definitely the best part of my whole eBay journey in the last 3 or 4 years. Like, it has been a totally different world, and I still get to do all the things that I loved about running my store all
Yeah.
by myself in solitude. You know,
Yeah.
like I still get to have all of that stuff, but there is literally just so much more that has enriched my life so much and changed my life so much and made my store stronger. And you know, it's just all been so enriching in every way. So I really wish I had done that sooner. Even though I will forever love the Scavenger Life podcast, I did not see that there was anything beyond that, you know, for the first like several years that I was running my store. So if you're like that, if we are that for you and you're like, all I need is a weekly, you know, installment from the Seller Club podcast to like keep me on track and teach me stuff, like that's flattering, but that's not enough, you know?
Yeah.
You're missing out on so much. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of good relations to be built. And
Yeah.
you know, and on the other hand too, I've been involved since day one, and I could probably only name 2 or 3 situations where I wish I hadn't met this person. You know,
Okay, well, definitely don't name names there.
and no, and the crazy part, that's 2 out of 3 out of like the thousands of people. It's like I'm not
Right.
even saying
That's
like
still really small.
the percentage is like
Yeah.
less than 1%.
Oh, yeah,
so
for
I'm
sure.
super confident to say that less than 1% is the bad. You know, in creating positive, you know, community, and also it's just like we're humans. You know, we're meant to connect.
Totally.
We're meant to like, you know, learn from each other. We're meant to live together. We're not, you know, total isolation is definitely not the thing. So and just a support system. You know, and helping each other dream bigger, right? Like I shared earlier, like I didn't think that spending that money on inventory is a thing until, you know, I met a friend that spends that weekly, monthly, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what? You know, like
You're
that's
like,
my yearly
okay.
sales.
Maybe I need to look at this.
You know, so yeah, so
How does this happen?
so yeah, and you know, and I think, you know, big shout out to our sponsor, eBay. Get connected with eBay for sellers. You know, follow them, and you know, keep up to date with the meetups that's going on across the country. You know, attend one at least. You know, at least once. Try. Also, this year there's gonna be eBay Open. You know, if you are willing to attend a giant event, seller event, you
In
know,
person?
in person, we'll definitely be there. So, you know, just come say hi.
Yeah.
And you know, even though we're in different categories, I could find somebody that's in your category, at least in my, you know, in my Instagram list.
Oh, yeah.
And again, that's how it starts. You know, it's like, oh, this guy is you know, car eBay motor seller, card guys. This is a guy, you know. So
Definitely.
I think
Yeah.
that's a big positive for sure.
Engaging with things, even like on just on Instagram, right? Engaging
Yeah.
with our posts, engaging with eBay for sellers. Like, I mean, yes, we are all trying to put out content that like helps you and is interesting for you as a seller. but also like pay attention to who engages with that stuff, because those are other people like you who like
Yep.
want to be connected and
Yeah.
who want to meet other sellers and have a community. Like by engaging at all, you're kind of like putting that out there that like,
Yeah.
hey, you're a person who wants
Your
to be
interest.
involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you're like looking for friends, you know, reseller friends or kind of like workmates, right? Like
Yeah.
look in all those comments. Like there's some really awesome
Yeah,
people who
look at- yeah.
regularly
Yeah, who
engage with all of
answers,
it.
you know,
Yeah.
who answers comments. I think that's a good advice. I do that all the time. I look at somebody's post, and if it's an interesting post, whether I like it or not, somebody has made time to type their answer or their feedback, and I was like, oh, this person cares, you know, this person, okay, and that's how I see people, like, oh, let me check out what they do. And I think that's a easy barrier of entry. You know,
Yeah.
create a social media account just for your business, even if you don't want your personal life involved.
Yeah, you don't have
I think,
to.
Yeah, you don't have to. Like, I think that's why I've always said, like, create a seller account, a seller, you know, IG account, you know, and document your journey. That's what I always say. Just document journey, because along the way, you'll come across with other people that are documenting their journey as well. And even if it's just inspiring each other, you know, seeing other people grow, it's just a good environment to be with people that are, you know, engaging and documenting their journey. Yeah, definitely. I totally agree on that statement, that if I ever had to do it again, I'd be way more involved, even in the beginning, more than
Yeah.
when I was.
And
Because
you were
I
way more
didn't even
involved
show
than I
my
was.
face. The first like 2 years, I didn't show my face.
Yeah.
It was funny because I was like, I don't want people to know who I am in real life. So because I'm sourcing, I don't want to,
Yeah.
you know, be recognized and stuff like that. And
And now you're like signing autographs.
yeah, now it's
Now you're on.
now like, hey.
Someone was just telling me recently. A friend of mine was just telling me that your eBay commercial that you were in
Uh-huh.
has been on Peacock. It's been on like when she's watching Project Runway,
Oh,
Fashion Connection.
fashion.
So like,
I like
all
that.
these fashion people are seeing your commercial. I'm just saying.
Oh,
so
that's so
anyway,
cool.
so much
That's
for
so
not
cool.
showing your face.
Yeah, to now being in part of a commercial. So
Yeah, I totally forgot to tell you that. And also shout out to our other sponsor, Seller Ledger. Hopefully, if you haven't done your taxes yet, you have filed an extension, because tax day is come and gone. But
Yep.
Regardless of where you are with that process for your 2024 taxes, it is definitely not too late to get your books straight for 2025. And we both use it and love it. Please check them out. You can also follow them on Instagram. And also try their product for free for 30 days without
Yep.
even putting in a credit card or anything. So if you're interested in getting more organized on that front, we really cannot recommend highly enough Seller Ledger.
Yep. And that is it, guys. If we ever had to start over again, that was our 3-point takes individually. And I think we both agreed and learned from that now I have 6 things to do when
I know,
start
like
over again.
definitely related to all of them. Yeah.
So
Really good points.
we will see you in the next episode. Peace.
Bye.